this is some of the capability that you have with roles. Now, I will say that probably some of you out there already have done this type of thing through client-side business rules. And while we're talking about this, I'll just show you how this is defined with this role module. But I'm sure some of you have already done this, but what we have found is using math statements and things like that, they can be quite resource intensive, and this is much more efficient and requires less resources on the application when we talk about evaluating all of the client-side business rules. So let's go here to our change approval module, and let's take a look at an example of one of these CSBRs. Now, this is a very simple rule just to illustrate the point here. You can certainly get much more complex with this, but in this case, our conditions are if the current sequence value is not equal to null. So basically, if this is not a new record, and when we define their second condition, if we go under miscellaneous, you'll notice this new option for roles. So we choose the role option there in miscellaneous, and then actually define the role. So I'm not going to do that because it's already defined for me here. But at that point, we're saying if the role is change approver, and if it equals 0, so 1 being that is that role, 0 being it's not that role. So at this point, we're saying if the person that's updating this record, if they don't have this role, then we want to do these actions, which is to display a message, and we can define which forms we want. So again, that's briefly how you would define that type of logic in Service Desk Express with the use of roles. Okay, so moving on to some of the other capabilities within Service Desk Express. We talked about roles, we talked about SQL reporting services, we've talked about the support for Firefox. Those are all things that are really, in my mind, those are probably the key things. If we look at system administration and the capabilities that we have there, there's some new options that are available to us. So if we go into application administration, you'll notice these other settings that have been added. So one of which is we have some options for, you've seen me expand and collapse the detail sections on forms. If we always want to show details, we can make that the case for every user in the system. If this is unchecked, it's a option that is applied to the individual user through a cookie in their browser. So if we want to force always those detailed tab sections at the bottom of the forms to be displayed, we simply check this box. Page caching duration, how basically in terms of minutes, how long will it be before the caching is cleared out on the page, and so things are, the logic is reapplied in your browser. Maximum attachment sizes. So this is something that's quite nice. There's, for customers for years have been hacking the ASP code to adjust the attachment size in Service Desk Express. Well, now BMC gives you the option of simply making the change here. Also, when we talked earlier about the SQL reporting services, if you go to the integration tab here under application administration, you'll have a new option here, SQL Server Reporting Services, and this is where you define those settings. So again, this is something that would be done by a RightStar consultant if you were to have us do the upgrade, or certainly you could do yourselves. So with that, let's quickly look at some of the other things that we had defined in the slideshow. So we talked about release management. In terms of the filtering capabilities on categories, I'd mentioned that that's a new capability within the application. If we go into our form customization and modify, for example, an existing form, and we'll use our incident here, incident form. So for example, under category, we can just expand this, and now we have the ability to apply a filter. And so and this is much like the same filtering capabilities that you'd seen previously, but we can apply these filters now to the category fields as well as the service fields. And where this is commonly used is organizations might be using Service Desk Express for different departments like a facilities or an HR department as well as IT. And in the past, you'd always have to apply database segregation to determine which categories would appear based upon the form that you were using. Well, now you can simply apply a filter and filter out those values in that field without having to apply database segregation to your implementation. So that's a nice feature. Also, I should add that in terms of one of the last features is the ability to apply a template. So templates were introduced a couple of versions back in 10.0, but you would now have the ability to apply a template to an existing incident record if you had the need for this. And where we saw the need for this is that customers would go to the self-service interface and create incidents, but when the staff began to look at that record, this was something that really should be addressed through an incident. So at that point, we could apply a template, at least do this once now in 10.2. So we could apply a template after the record had been created. And so those are some scenarios where that might be applicable. Okay. With that, I think I've covered really the key features that are in the 10.2 release. Thank you for your time today. If you have any questions or have anything else that you'd like to see, contact your RightStar account manager, and we'll gladly work with you and set up a time to do a one-on-one personal demonstration, or if you're needing assistance with your upgrade, certainly we have professional services consultants that can assist with that. So again, thank you for your time today. Hopefully you found this to be helpful in information regarding Service Desk Express 10.2.